My name is Navid Khonsari, and I'm the creator of 1979 Revolution, the game.
Let's start by talking about your background in video games. What are some games people would know you from?
Sure. I was a part of the team at Rockstar Games for 6 years, where I got to work on the Grand Theft Auto PS2 trilogy, GTA 3, Vice, and San Andreas. I also worked on pretty much every game that came out during my 6 years there. The Warriors, a little bit of Bully, Red Dead Revolver, and the list kind of going, Manhunt, and certainly Max Payne 1 and 2. And then I went on and actually worked with the Remedy guys on Alan Wake, and I worked with THQ on Homefront. So that's some of the stuff that I've kind of been able to be privileged to actually work on.
Now, some of those games, especially some of the latter ones you talked about, were very much story driven. How did that help you when bringing the story of 1979 Revolution to life?
Well, you know, Alan Wake in particular, done by Remedy, is very story-driven, and Sam Lake is somebody I always looked up to in terms of his narrative skills, and he never really looked at game design. He was like, let me just create the best story that I can. So what happened with me was I was thinking Revolution is such an interesting bed to kind of create stories, and how do we go about doing that? And if we could create a narrative game where you can make choices, no better place than the Revolution, where you have to make good choices and bad choices. So narrative kind of became an element not just to kind of help make the game, but became the main element to actually play the game.
Where was the inspiration for this game to turn the Revolution into a video game?
It actually started 4 years ago. I started talking about the game at the School of Ethical Studies on the Upper West Side in New York, and I was saying, wouldn't it be interesting if you could create a game based on real events? Wouldn't it be interesting if you made a game about the Iranian Revolution? And immediately after that, the reaction I got was unbelievable. And so I started looking into it more and more, and started realizing that nobody's making games actually based on real events. And all the research that we as developers do in order to create our games, such as the stories, such as the environments that we research, we actually never use that material. And why not use that material? So I've been working on a couple of documentaries, and I thought, well, if I take that research I do for documentaries, embed it within the game experience, then we could actually create an incredible narrative that's based on actual events, and combine that with actually really good gameplay. That's something I definitely learned from my Rockstar days, which is like, no matter what, it's got to have great gameplay. So combine those together. We're not looking at making just a game, we're looking at creating a new genre. Have respect for the AAA titles and love it. Have respect for the indie titles, but is there a way of us creating something that's a hybrid of the two, but then is actually taking real events and almost like verite games?
What has Episodic opened up for you in delivering the story that way?
Episodic has provided my team the ability to get something done, get immediate kind of feedback, and also not have that 2-3 year burnout session of trying to get one game out. And we don't live and die by the sword of the only game that we work on. So Episodic allows us to get a game done in 6 to 8 months. The team feels fresh. Our concept artists start working on episode 2 after they finished episode 1. So it's just great for the morale. It's also financially a smaller risk for us to take. We get a greater feedback from our audience. The analytics of what they like in terms of the choices that they made help us as writers, as creators, to kind of push the stories in different ways. And then on top of that, the gameplay elements is something that becomes a part of our library. So if you were throwing rocks at the soldiers in episode 1, if episode 2 is a heightened version of it and you're trying to destabilize the government, those rocks become Molotovs and we can create greater challenges. So we're just actually building a larger and larger scope game, but we're just doing it in smaller bits. And because it's narrative, we're allowed to leave you with like a cliffhanger so you can kind of come back and experience it. And I think from my own personal experience, I'm having a tougher time now to sit down to finish an epic-sized game. And the ability to kind of do something for a couple of hours over a week just fits my schedule, as I'm trying to be pulled in so many different ways with all the digital kind of interests that I have.